I'm Richard Devaney. I'm the Bacala Professor of Strategy at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College, and I'm here today with Doug Stotlar, the CEO and President of Conway Inc., a freight company that operates in the United States and has operations around the world. Based on what you've talked about to our students, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. The first one is, you talked about Conway making a kind of very radical shift in concept of what it is, and away from purely being a provider of truck space and delivery times and so forth, to something radically different, and as well as a cultural shift that you've been leading for the last couple of years. So I'd like you to share with our audience what's going on. What is that kind of change?
First big shift was really our switch to lean as the underlying way we're going to manage the business going forward. And lean at its heart is more of a cultural transformation around continuous improvement, but getting all of our employees involved in improving the process that they can control. And so it's also led a sea change of thought around voice of the customer. And so for years, we had a really great model that had the highest velocity, less-than-truckload network in the industry. And we were able to ride that model and provide good service for our customers. But as times have changed, we haven't kept up with what our customers were telling us is most important to them. So now through voice of the customer, we're able to adapt the organization to be able to meet our customers' needs and provide additional value in ways that we couldn't fathom before.
Could you be a little more specific about what kind of services that you add now and value added that you create for your customers that you didn't do just a couple of years ago?
I think some of the biggest changes are really occurring in the fact that the leadership we have at our primary business units all have supply chain backgrounds. And so when they listen to the customer and their customer strategic needs, we're able to take pieces of our organization, or I'd say competencies that we have within our organization, and be able to put them together to create additional value creating opportunities for our customers.
So in other words, you provide solutions and you help them redesign their supply chain.
Many of these are using tried and true supply chain engineering concepts, but tying them together with value engineering and asset-based operations.
I see. You also mentioned something about your warehousing strategy, which I thought was fascinating, that you're doing value-added warehousing. Could you explain what that means?
Sure. So when we try to engage in warehousing opportunities, we try to engage in warehousing opportunities where the customer needs an additional level of value created at the sourcing point or at the distribution point. And so, for example, it might be doing some light assembly at a location. It might be actually making a certain configuration to order change at the site of the warehouse. And so those types of opportunities allow us to use additional services and capabilities to create value rather than just pallet in, pallet out shipments. Tell me about your global footprint and why be global at all in your business. Our global footprint really came about as a result of having been in business, some of our prior companies that we used to have, which gave us an international footprint. But the fact that we have a third-party logistics company that does business with pretty much most of the Fortune 500 puts us in places where they want us to help engage them. And so they want to be able to have the same level of inventory control in Singapore that they get from us in the U.S. or they get from us in Europe. And so it really was following our multinational clients around the globe where they have their footprints. But your emphasis really isn't on global growth. What is it on, and why did you choose to focus on that? Yeah, so our emphasis really is around the asset-based companies and really the core of our business, which is our less-than-truckload company. And that's located mainly in North America? That's located in North America. We have 300 locations across North America and has 21,000 employees. And so it's really about retooling the LTL network to be able to have the data tools, the analytics, the understanding our cost structure in a more granular level, using optimization tools, decision support technology to allow our network to be more efficient, to allow the frontline operators to be as efficient and as effective as they can be, and to be able to provide our customer with insights into their shipping patterns and insights into our network in ways they haven't had it before. This sounds like the value added is coming from the software, not so much from the hardware. So why do you need the hardware? So the value added certainly comes from the software and the optimization tools and algorithms, but you still need to have these trucks navigate the highways to physically transport heavy goods from point A to point B, or from one part of the manufacturing process to a distribution center, from the distribution center to the ultimate consumer. And so we can't teleport anything just yet, but we certainly can use these assets more effectively when we have decision support tools and optimization tools at our disposal.
Do you sell any of those tools or provide them as services to other trucking companies?
No. On the LTL side, it's a relatively small community with about the top 8 providers handling more than 50% market share. And so almost every carrier's developed their own. There's some aspects of optimization tools you can buy, and then you have to customize it into your primary operating systems. So there really isn't a large market for these type of tools. And so most of us design them to fit our networks like a glove.
I see. And what makes your network better than theirs?
Well, we have probably the highest velocity network. So our network really runs on a very disciplined schedule, on time. And when it absolutely positively has to get there, they think of Conway.
Whatever happened to Emery?
So Emery was an acquisition that our corporation made back in the late 80s, middle 80s, as I recall. And Emery was still struggling from digesting their Purolator acquisition, and it was a struggling company. And we had that business in our part of our corporate portfolio for several years. But the North American asset-based heavy air freight industry was in the secular decline as a result of companies like ours that had high-velocity LTL networks. And so ultimately, Emery and the international forwarding operations were sold to UPS in 2004.
And what's happened to it since then? Do you know?
Well, UPS is fully integrated into their international air network and the forwarding operations into their international forwarding operations. And so it's been completely integrated into UPS.
Truckers aren't usually known to be like the most malleable people on Earth. How are you managing to get the kind of culture change that it takes to move to the lean system that you're talking about, to the use of all of this technology that could be off-putting to some people, and despite their efficiency factors, and how do you motivate them in today's world when there's a shortage of drivers and they can just go any place they want if they get upset about the changes?
So I think you're absolutely right. Change management is one of the hardest things we have to manage at our company. And particularly when you're implementing pretty big sea changes in the organization from a cultural standpoint, from how they do their work, the use of technology on board inside the trucks. And so we spend an awful lot of time answering the why question. Why do we need to do this? What will it do for our company long term? Then we ultimately have to answer the WIFM. What's in it for me? How is this going to help you do your job more effectively? How is it going to help you be a better driver? How is it going to help you be be able to better provide the service for our customers? And so we spend a lot of time talking about this kind of change management because it is a big issue. And it might be one of the harder challenges. Developing the software might be a little bit easier than actually trying to get, it's like a symphony across 300 locations. You're trying to choreograph it from afar.
So getting consistency in that culture across all those locations, how do you monitor that?
And so obviously we use balanced scorecards to measure the effectiveness of what we're doing, but there's no shortage for the feedback that comes directly from the employees and directly from the supervision that is resides in the field. And then we also have individual teams at each location called Voices and Values teams that are involved in work around our values, work around our lean initiatives, work around safety, and try to keep employees engaged and interested in the kind of things that we're doing.
What's the one or two things that you could do that would move the needle on your stock price, change your price to earnings ratios, basically, and are they on your agenda?
So the two biggest things are margin expansion and growth. If you're going to change the trajectory of the PE of a company like ours, if you can grow faster than the industry, or you can expand the margins to a place that's different, that looks different than your competitors, you will expand your PE and you will get more value for your shareholders. And certainly both of those things are on our agenda. We had to put fundamental building blocks in place to be able to start to move the needle on the margin expansion. And we're starting to prove that today. And we're starting to see that margin expansion starting to occur. And we've got a whole host of additional initiatives to keep that momentum going. And now with some of the enterprise initiatives we're undertaking, we believe we have some engines with which to start the growth engines going.
Okay. So tell me about the building blocks. What are they that you think will improve margins?
Well, certainly all the things we've done in our pricing side, understanding our costs down to the granular level, density-based freight planning in the network, but it also informs our costing models on the profile of business and the cubic capacity it takes up. The lane-based pricing models and our local account yield elasticity models have been two big improvements for our organization. So pricing your product right is a big first start. And then things we're doing on the line haul side to improve the line haul network, which is really a mind-numbingly complex task. And so we have line haul optimization modules that we've created to help us continue to get better at planning the line haul function. We're working on P&D optimization. We're working on dock optimization. We're working on decision support tools for the frontline supervisors to be able to make better decisions in real time because the computer can provide them more information in a synthesized data than they can do on their own.
And on the growth side, the growth engines, what were the key things that you're doing there?
Well, the big things we're doing is we're going to, because we're understanding our costs better, we're able to price it a little better in some locations to layer in freight in our network where we need it to best optimize our cost structure, which means we can offer those lanes at more attractive prices to our customers. And then some of the things we're doing on the product side in conjunction with our truckload company or logistics company on engineered solutions for customers.